What up, YouTube family? I'm back at the drawing table. Welcome to my channel. And for those who've been here before, welcome back. Today I am doing a quick drawing study. And this, I'm doing a drawing study from Frank Frazetta. This particular piece is called Swords of Mars, I think. I believe that's right, Swords of Mars. So if you type in Frank Frazetta Swords of Mars, you will be able to find this piece if you want to do a study from it as well. Um, so if you see here, I'm focusing on the big ideals, right? Just trying to get the overall flow of the particular piece. And that's kind of how you want to go about your drawings, focusing on the big ideals first. I look at it kind of like doing a blueprint for yourself. And just like with anything, like say building a house, you need a blueprint. The same thing with drawing is your structure. You get this blueprint so you can kind of get this overall look and feel and flow of how you want the piece to be. So you want to focus on those big ideas, the big shapes, and then move to like the medium shapes and just keep getting smaller and smaller till you get to those finer, smaller shapes and the finer detail. And when you take this approach, you save yourself a great deal of time and headache if something is not right in the piece, right? So, because you spend the time focusing on this in the beginning, it's less likely for something to be off later on in your drawing, because you're going to tackle a lot of that in this stage, and you're not committing that much time to this particular stage of the drawing because it's no real fine detail happening, so you can make changes very easily. If you don't like the shape of something, you don't like where the flow of something or where you put a particular part, a particular angle that you took, you can easily make that change in a few seconds or a couple minutes, versus if you wait and you jump into that detail too early. Now you probably spent 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes rendering out a particular part of the work, and then you look at it and you find that, you know what, I don't really like this angle I took, or I don't like the flow of this. Now that's a great deal of time you've wasted, and time is very precious, especially if you're working on a deadline for a piece, right? Like, time is everything. Uh, so as you get that blueprint down, it's gonna make a lot. It's gonna save you a lot of time in the long run. So, but for this particular piece, I mean, generally, you want to study from artists you like, and Frank Frazetta is a very good one to study from. But artists, you want to kind of study from artists who has something that you may want to emulate and kind of put in your own personal work. So Frank Frazetta, he's a legend, especially in like the fantasy art space. And if you want to have like dynamic poses, well, I guess dynamic, heroic, physical, like strong looking poses, Frank Frazetta is one of the best at it, right? So if you want to have that type of like look and feel to your art, you can look at an artist like Frank Frazetta and get that. Now he has a lot of other different styles too, but I would say he's best known for this type of style. Uh, so you want to add that to your work, you can study from an artist like him, and figure out how he goes about it. How he problem solves, how you would go about drawing that way, because you can get a lot from studying different artists, and you can figure out maybe how they did it, or you can figure out another way of doing it and achieving the same thing. And you can take elements that you like from them, and you can discard the ones that you don't like for them, and then you can take those elements and mold them to something of your own, right? So say you have maybe a particular drawing style that you like to do, but you can kind of take it, elements of what they're doing, and kind of mix it in with what you're doing, and you can kind of create like a hybrid and create something unique to you, uh, from learning from them. And learning about artists, this happens a lot, right? They A lot of these grandmasters and like the masters of art in the past, they had people that they learned from, people that they studied, people that mentored them. And if you go look at their mentors, you can see like, oh, they took this from the person who they got trained from, and they took it and made their own thing from particular um this particular mindset, this particular style, this particular structure. So is this one of the reasons why it's really good to study other artists. But yeah, I would say Frank Frazetta is, he's a really good, especially too the well, like I said, the strong, heroic type poses, and the anatomy too. Like he he has good anatomy. He understands anatomy well, and then sometimes he will take anatomy and then push it further than you know it goes in real life, right? So it's this thing that I hear people talk about. You know, you learn to draw anatomy or draw what you see, and then you can get to the point to where you can draw what you wish you saw, right? And that's when you kind of get into that fantasy realm, right, where you look at some people art, and it has a great feel, but did you really look at the anatomy, it's like, well, oh, they added like an extra set of abs. Now you kind of get into that fantasy, because you really kind of, it's really I guess a fine line between you know hyper realism and fantasy, right? And if you could, I guess, looking at like say artists like Frank Frazetta, he really tiptoed the line, that fine line of being in between those two different things. Because when you get into like say the super hyper realism, it's that type of art is cool. I love, you know, looking at artists who could like draw hyper realistic um art. But it's like a photograph at this point. It's awesome that somebody can spend that time and spend 100 hours or more, really rendering a piece to that level. But is like a picture, right? It's like just a copy machine at that point. Um, so the artist who could like really tiptoe that line of okay, this is like a mixture of hyper realism, but I also, you know, do some fantasy in it, and made, tiptoe this line of fantasy and hyper realism. Those I feel like those are the artists that kind of are more visually appealing than all the most artists, the ones who can really tiptoe that line. It's kind of like if you look at video games, is a reason why video games, if you look at video games, they really they don't go like all the way hyper realistic, because I mean they could just in video games they could just when they using like realistic, trying to make it look realistic, they could just get people and have them act out the different things that's happening in the game, right? And then it can just be like a live action type video game. Those are not like things that look just all the way realistic, are not as visually appealing as when you really tiptoe that line of okay, this looks real, but it also has a fantasy look to it. This just makes it way more appealing. So it's really good to be able to tiptoe that line. But that's all I have for you guys today. I'm just doing this study from Frank Frazetta, and I would catch you on the next one. Peace.